Well, in this video we're going to be demonstrating to you a technique that a plumber shared with me many years ago for re-sealing with silicone sealants around these wide gaps you often get with period fixtures and fittings. And this example is an old Butlers sink. It's seen better days, as you can see, but that bleaches out, and it's on a lovely old period brick plinth, this one, so still got some life in it. But this sealant, as you can see, if yours looks like this, every so often you start getting mould, and where it's detached from the actual top of the sink, you start getting wet going down it. So it needs resealing, and the technique we're going to use for these wide gaps, you'll see on the side elevation of this sink, it's a curved top, so there's quite a big bead of silicone needed in between these. Now the first thing we're going to do is remove all that old silicone, and rather than using expensive tools, what I'm going to do with this is just a kitchen knife that you're going to have to hand, and we're going to start paring down the back of this, scraping it tightly along the tiles. It won't all come away in one go, but it will start releasing that silicone, and you're cutting through it. It takes quite a lot of effort, and then what I'm going to use to clean the tiles and get the tiny bits of silicone off is a razor blade in a holder like this. Now ideally a glass scraper. They sell those in paint shops and DIY shops. This is one that was an old leftover from cleaning the enamel on an Aga. And then what we've got to do is get all this old silicone out, and then clean round with some bleach, and then dry this surface completely. So let's have a go getting all this silicone out and seeing what we find underneath and behind it. You really do need quite a firm and steady hand to use this. It's a dangerous job, so make sure you're confident in your knife skills before doing it. If not, there are other less sharp tools that you can use to cut this ground away. But what I'm doing is just paring it away until I can feel the gritty wall behind it. And if you can get a grip of it, you can start peeling this away in big sections once you've released it. But make sure you're always working away from any fingers or hands, because that knife can suddenly release and catapult forward. It leaves lots of little bits behind it, and you can scrape these with the surface of the paring knife, but if they are resistant, then just come at it in an upwards and longitudinal action with that razor blade. That will release it really well. It's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes just to clear this small area, but you do want to get it absolutely all off before we move to the next stage. Now I've been going at this for about 10 minutes now. You can see I've got the majority of the silicone away from both the ceramic tile surface and the top of the sink, but I can still feel some adherent material. And if you move your finger along and there's little flappy bits, then you've still got further to go. But what you're left with is a lot of gritty and flaky small material. The big sections that you've come off can be picked up and put straight into the waste. But what I'm going to do now is just hoover this to suck up all those tiny little bits and clean up, because I don't want these going down into the wastewater. Brought to light quite a bit of stuff that's still sitting around here. So back with a knife and the razor blade, let's get the rest of this cleaned off. Well, I've removed as much of this silicone as I can possibly get away. These period tiles, although they give a lovely vintage effect, are really quite pitted and marked, and getting everything off them is quite difficult. But because I'm going to put quite a wide bead of silicone in this joint I don't think, as long as it's solid and dry, and this is what I'm doing here, just making sure I'm getting every bit of moisture, and quite often when you're doing this job you'll find that the silicones retain moisture down the back. If it's really mouldy and dirty, then use a bleach solution, leave it in for about an hour and then dry it off completely, leave it to dry for a good few more hours, because what you must make sure is that when you're applying your silicone you're doing it to an absolutely dry solid surface. Now, the technique I'm going to show you is one where we use masking tape, paper masking tape, standard stuff that is sold for decorating and masking when you're painting, and I'm going to use this to create a sharp edge of where my silicone is going to come. The tricky bit on this sink is this corner area where we have a curve. You can see where there's no glaze on the sink above it. So I'm going to have to form that very gently using a mask, but I want a wide bead of silicone to come right out, and the same on the vertical surface. Again, simpler here. A little tricky just to get your levels right, but it's worthwhile taking your time and adjusting your levels. And you can tear little sections off and just patch any bits that you miss. I'm going to bring this into the corner here. And then bring it vertically up the side of the wooden edge which forms our draining board. Now in this corner I'm going to have to freestyle, tearing little sections and just forming a gentle curve with those sections. There we go, happy with that. And when you've got all that nicely adherent and you're happy that it's flat and level and you've got the width all the way around, you can start to apply your silicone sealant using a standard silicone gun. Now you'll see this one's been mainly used. I haven't got nearly enough to do a continuous line, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to smooth this manually. So put plenty in, don't worry about it balling or bubbling. There we go, I've run out of that one, so I'm going to fit a new one. New one fitted, here we go. Pick up where I left off, right the way along to the end, and then in this corner, again filling in, not worrying about what it looks like just yet. I'm just getting the silicone in place and making sure that it's squeezed really well into the crevice. Right, there we go. Clean my nozzle and apply. Normally these silicone sealants come with a airtight seal, which does mean they'll last for a couple of weeks after opened, but not forever. Right, now the tricky bit. Wet your thumb, just with saliva, that's the best thing. And then we're looking at squeezing the excess off, pushing firmly against the masking tape to create a good seal. You're going to have lots of excess silicone which you need paper towels to remove. Same again in this corner. Pushing firmly with your finger to form that lovely deep curved recess, and your finger really is the best thing for doing this. There are shaping tools that you can buy, but they're never quite the right shape for the bit that you're doing at the time. Up here, just to get that nice and even all the way along and up that back corner. And you can work this as many times as you like. It is a messy job. Do make sure you have some kitchen roll on hand to clean your hands and deposit the excess silicone. And when you're happy that it's firmed nice and smoothly all the way along, now the magic bit. Removing the masking tape, carefully lifting away any silicone that's sitting on it. And it gives you this absolutely beautiful, clean, defined edge. There we go. As you can see, this technique gives you that beautiful straight edge, a nice even curve that will draw all the water away. I've been able to form it into that corner, so again we don't get pooling of water, and it's all nicely pushed and adherent, both against the ceramic top of the sink and those old tiles. A nice, clean, white, fresh silicone sink. Got to be left to cure now for at least 24 hours before you get moisture on this. We're going to do a little bit more work on this old sink. The next job is definitely sanding down the old draining board that's looking very worn and in need of a good clean up. Sand and some oil will really bring that up a treat. We'll maybe do that next to try and restore this to looking its very best. Thanks for watching.